1 Chronicles Chapter 25. David, together with the commanders of the army, set apart some of the sons of Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun for the ministry of prophesying, accompanied by harps, lyres, and cymbals. Here is the list of the men who performed this service. From the sons of Asaph, Zachar, Joseph, Nethaniah, and Azarellah. The sons of Asaph were under the supervision of Asaph, who prophesied under the king's supervision. As for Jeduthun, from his sons, Gedaliah, Zeri, Jeshiah, Shimei, Hashabiah, and Mattithiah, 6 in all, under the supervision of their father Jeduthun, who prophesied, using the harp and thanking and praising the Lord. As for Heman, from his sons, Bechiah, Mattaniah, Uzziel, Shobael, and Jeremoth, Hananiah, Hanani, Eliathah, Gedalti, and Ramamti-Ezer, Josh Bekasha, Malothi, Hothir, and Mahazioth. All these were sons of Heman, the king's seer. They were given him through the promises of God to exalt him. God gave Heman 14 sons and 3 daughters. All these men were under the supervision of their fathers for the music of the temple of the Lord, with cymbals, lyres, and harps, for the ministry at the house of God. Asaph, Jeduthun, and Heman were under the supervision of the king. Along with their relatives, all of them trained and skilled in music for the Lord, they numbered 288. Young and old alike, teacher as well as student, cast lots for their duties. The first lot, which was for Asaph, fell to Joseph, his sons and relatives, 12. The second to Gedaliah, and he and his relatives and sons, 12. The third to Zachar, his sons and relatives, 12. The fourth to Isri, his sons and relatives, 12. The fifth to Nethaniah, his sons and relatives, 12. The sixth to Bechiah, his sons and relatives, 12. The seventh to Jesarela, his sons and relatives, 12. The eighth to Jeshiah, his sons and relatives, 12. The ninth to Mattaniah, his sons and relatives, 12. The 10th to Shimei, his sons and relatives, 12. The 11th to Azarel, his sons and relatives, 12. The 12th to Hashabiah, his sons and relatives, 12. The 13th to Shobael, his sons and relatives, 12. The 14th to Mattithiah, his sons and relatives, 12. The 15th to Jeremoth, his sons and relatives, 12. The 16th to Hananiah, his sons and relatives, 12. The 17th to Joshbekasha, his sons and relatives, 12. The 18th to Hanani, his sons and relatives, 12. The 19th to Melothi, his sons and relatives, 12. The 20th to Eliathah, his sons and relatives, 12. The 21st to Hothir, his sons and relatives, 12. The 22nd to Gedalti, his sons and relatives, 12. The 23rd to Mahazioth, his sons and relatives, 12. The 24th to Ramamti-Ezer, his sons and relatives, 12. Chapter 26. The divisions of the gatekeepers. From the Korahites, Meshelemiah, son of Korah, one of the sons of Asaph. Meshelemiah had sons, Zechariah the firstborn, Jediel the second, Zebediah the third, Jathniel the fourth, Elam the fifth, Jehohanan the sixth, and Eliyehoenai the seventh. Obed-Edom also had sons, Shemaiah the firstborn, Jehozabad the second, Joah the third, Sechar the fourth, Nethanel the fifth, Amiel the sixth, Issachar the seventh, and Peulathai the eighth, for God had blessed Obed-Edom. His son Shemaiah also had sons, who were leaders in their father's family, because they were very capable men. The sons of Shemaiah, Othni, Raphael, Obed, and Elzabad. His relatives Elihu and Semachiah were also able men. All these were descendants of Obed-Edom. They and their sons and their relatives were capable men with the strength to do the work. Descendants of Obed-Edom, 62 in all. Meshelemiah had sons and relatives who were able men, 18 in all. Hosea the Merarite had sons. Shimri the first, although he was not the firstborn, his father had appointed him the first. Hilkiah the second, Tabaliah the third, and Zechariah the fourth. The sons and relatives of Hosea were 13 in all. These divisions of the gatekeepers, through their chief men, had duties for ministering in the temple of the Lord, just as their relatives had. Lots were cast for each gate, according to their families, young and old alike. The lot for the east gate fell to Shelemiah. Then lots were cast for his son Zechariah, a wise counselor, and the lot for the north gate fell to him. The lot for the south gate fell to Obed-Edom, and the lot for the storehouse fell to his sons. The lots for the west gate and the Shalaketh gate on the upper road fell to Shuppim and Hosea. Guard was alongside of guard. There were 6 Levites a day on the east, 4 a day on the north, 4 a day on the south, and 2 at a time at the storehouse. As for the court to the west, there were 4 at the road and 2 at the court itself. These were the divisions of the gatekeepers, who were descendants of Korah and Merari. Their fellow Levites were in charge of the treasuries of the house of God, and the treasuries for the dedicated things. The descendants of Laden, who were Gershonites through Laden, and who were heads of families belonging to Laden the Gershonite, were Jehieli, the sons of Jehieli, Zetham and his brother Joel. They were in charge of the treasuries of the temple of the Lord. From the Amramites, the Izharites, the Hebronites, and the Uzzielites, Shubiel, a descendant of Gershom, son of Moses, was the officer in charge of the treasuries. His relatives, through Eleazar, Rehabiah his son, Jeshiah his son, Joram his son, Zichri his son, and Shelomith his son. Shelomith and his relatives were in charge of all the treasuries for the things dedicated by King David, by the heads of families who were the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds, and by the other army commanders. Some of the plunder taken in battle they dedicated for the repair of the temple of the Lord, and everything dedicated by Samuel the seer and by Saul son of Kish, Abner son of Ner, and Joab son of Zeruiah, and all the other dedicated things were in the care of Shelomith and his relatives. From the Izharites, Kenaniah and his sons were assigned duties away from the temple as officials and judges over Israel. From the Hebronites, Hashabiah and his relatives, 1,700 able men, were responsible in Israel west of the Jordan for all the work of the Lord and for the king's service. As for the Hebronites, Jeriah was their chief according to the genealogical records of their families. In the 40th year of David's reign, a search was made in the records, and capable men among the Hebronites were found at Jazer in Gilead. Jeriah had 2,700 relatives who were able men and heads of families, and King David put them in charge of the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh for every matter pertaining to God and for the affairs of the king. Chapter 27. This is the list of the Israelites, heads of families, commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds, and their officers, who served the king in all that concerned the army divisions that were on duty month by month throughout the year. Each division consisted of 24,000 men. In charge of the first division, for the first month, was Jashobeam, son of Zabdiel. There were 24,000 men in his division. He was a descendant of Perez, and chief of all the army officers for the first month. In charge of the division for the second month was Dodai the Ahohite. Mikloth was the leader of his division. There were 24,000 men in his division. The third army commander for the third month was Benaiah, son of Jehoiada the priest. He was chief, and there were 24,000 men in his division. This was the Benaiah who was a mighty man among the 30, and was over the 30. His son Amizabad was in charge of his division. The fourth, for the fourth month, was Asahel, the brother of Joab. His son Zebediah was his successor. There were 24,000 men in his division. The fifth, for the fifth month, was the commander Shamhuth, the Israelite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The sixth, for the sixth month, was Ira, the son of Ikesh, the Tekoite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 7th for the 7th month was Helez the Pelonite, an Ephraimite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 8th for the 8th month was Sibbecai the Hushathite, a Zerahite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 9th for the 9th month was Abiezer the Anathothite, a Benjamite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 10th for the 10th month was Maharai the Netophathite, a Zerahite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 11th for the 11th month was Benaiah the Pirathonite, an Ephraimite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 12th for the 12th month was Heldai the Netophathite, from the family of Othniel. There were 24,000 men in his division. The officers over the tribes of Israel, over the Reubenites, Eleazar son of Zikri; over the Simeonites, Shephatiah son of Maacah; over Levi, Hashabiah son of Kemuel; over Aaron, Zadok; over Judah, Elihu, a brother of David; over Issachar, Omri son of Michael; over Zebulun, Ishmaiah son of Obadiah; over Naphtali, Jeremoth son of Azriel; over the Ephraimites, Hoshea son of Azaziah; over half the tribe of Manasseh, Joel son of Pedaiah; over the half tribe of Manasseh in Gilead, Iddo son of Zechariah; over Benjamin, Jasiel son of Abner; over Dan, Azarel son of Jeroham. These were the officers over the tribes of Israel. David did not take the number of the men 20 years old or less, because the Lord had promised to make Israel as numerous as the stars in the sky. Joab son of Zeruiah began to count the men, but did not finish. Wrath came on Israel on account of this numbering, and the number was not entered in the book of the annals of King David. Asmaveth son of Adiel was in charge of the royal storehouses. Jonathan son of Uzziah was in charge of the storehouses in the outlying districts, in the towns, the villages, and the watchtowers. Ezri son of Caleb was in charge of the field workers who farmed the land. Shimei the Ramathite was in charge of the vineyards. Zabdi the Shifmite I don't know how to pronounce that, was in charge of the produce of the vineyards for the wine vats. Baal-Hanan the Gederite was in charge of the olive and sycamore fig trees in the western foothills. Joash was in charge of the supplies of olive oil. Shatrai the Sharonite was in charge of the herds grazing in Sharon. Shaphat son of Adlai was in charge of the herds in the valleys. Obil the Ishmaelite was in charge of the camels. Jediaiah the Meronothite was in charge of the donkeys. Jaziz the Hagrite was in charge of the flocks. All these were the officials in charge of King David's property. Jonathan, David's uncle, was a counselor, a man of insight and a scribe. Jehiel son of Hachmoni took care of the king's sons. Ahithophel was the king's counselor. Hushai the Archite was the king's friend. Ahithophel was succeeded by Jehoiada, son of Benaiah, and by Abiathar. Joab was the commander of the royal army.